Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our Compliance and Monitoring Program webinar. My name is Jessica Finn. I am the Membership Manager at NFRC. I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of our 2022 EWC sponsors. If you have any questions about sponsorship, please feel free to reach out to me or Michelle Blackston, and we can give you more information. So on today's webinar, if you do have any questions, please put them in the question box, and we will take the time at the end of the presentation to answer all questions. And after the webinar, if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to either me or to Michelle or Ron, who will be giving the presentation. This will be recorded and will be sent out to everybody who registered. So we hope you enjoy the webinar, and I'd like to now turn it over to Michelle Sissom and Ron Reed.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Michelle Sissom here, and I'm going to have my camera on for just a couple of minutes while I say hello, and then I'll turn it off because I think it can be a little distracting during a presentation. Ron Reed is also on the call. I'm going to allow him to be kind of quiet today, unless he needs to speak up about something. Again, yeah, the questions, if you have those, put those in the question area as Jess indicated, and I'm going to get started. Just take a quick look. It's 2:01. I might give just about 30 more seconds, see if a few more people pop on, and then we'll go ahead and roll on into the presentation.
Yeah, Michelle, there's still a couple coming in yet, so.
Which I have a peek here at Ron and myself, trying to look very cool. Doesn't always work. Sometimes we try. All right, I'm looking at 2:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. For those of you that are attending, the presentation is going to be recorded. So if someone is, in your group that you had hoped would also join, feel free to let them know, and they can take a look at it later on. Or if you enjoy it so much you want to watch it on repeat, that's okay too. So let's get started with the purpose of the Compliance and Monitoring Program. Many of you are familiar with the CAMP. The current document governing the CAMP is the NFRC 707, and the purpose of it is to just look out for the integrity of NFRC certifications, to protect our certification mark, and to show that we are here a real working entity and certification body with a purpose. So we're continuing to strengthen this program as time goes on. We're going to be looking at accreditation for the product certification program. And so that's part of the reason why we really want to make sure our CAMP is working well. Who are the stakeholders in CAMP? Well, look around, you're all stakeholders. Pretty much anyone who makes a window or ever purchases a window or looks at a window for code compliance, nearly everybody is an NFRC stakeholder. Go ahead and put this right out front. If you find an issue, at a big box store down the street, if you find an issue in your own home, if you find something on a competitor's website, any type of compliance issue, you can report them to NFRC. There's 3 major ways to do that. You can email compliance@nfrc.org as shown there. Getting some background noise. Somebody can mute, please. Hopefully we can get that taken care of. Anybody, staff who's on, can mute. Try not to get that weird feedback again. Sorry about that, everyone. So you can, if you have a compliance issue to report, you can email. There is an online form that you can find on the website here. And then you also can always pick up the phone and give a call and ask to be put in touch with compliance. Once you report those issues, we're going to do a thorough investigation. We'll also keep your information confidential unless you wish for us to share it with the party that you are issuing a complaint about. So let's talk about some common compliance issues. We get a lot of calls about labels being removed or labels that don't exist. We have a lot of issues of expired CPD labels. Consumers do cross-reference with the CPD. They pull up and they want to know, well, I looked up this manufacturer's name and there was nothing there, or I looked up this CPD number and there was nothing there. And so making sure that the information on a label is correct and clear, that your CPD numbers are up to date, is important. We also get a lot of things, calls for misleading labels or labeling errors. So when we do get a missing label, there's some things that can happen here. So as you may know, if you're a manufacturer out there or an inspection agency, you don't really have to put a label on a product just because you have an NFRC authorized for certification, but it's not certified until you put a label on it. So if the consumer is trying to get through code inspection, or they are trying to get an incentive from their local utility or Energy Star tax break or something like that, without that label, they don't have an NFRC certified product and they're going to be pretty upset. So in that case, we can sometimes have a manufacturer's IA work with them to get products field labeled. Sometimes if a label's been prematurely removed, we can have them sent out. Some of what we do at NFRC is just to facilitate that resolution in any way we can. Usually it's by connecting a consumer with the proper parties to help them out on that. So claims of certification. So there's a lot of websites that have the NFRC logo or the certification mark to market their products. Sometimes this can be tricky for consumers to trace because you have your private labelers, your distributors, your installers, and they're putting the logo up there because the product that they're selling is certified, but it's not always clearly associated with the manufacturer that has the certification. So we're hoping to try to find ways to make this a little more transparent for the consumer, so that it's not confusing. Also, it should be common knowledge that if the product is not listed in the CPD, you shouldn't be labeling it anymore. As soon as that certification is expired, those labels need to be ceased. So kind of a funny picture here. I just got a little quote. Because we do get a lot of imposters and we get a lot of fraudulent certification claims. It's challenging to hunt these down and figure out what we can do with them. One of the common things we see are labels that are misleading. There are labels out there that, I think they're kind of designed so that a code official walking through a home takes a glance and it says, oh, that's an NFRC label. But they're not. They use similar formats. There's nothing that could be done about that in most cases, but just to make you aware that the certification, if you're a certification holder, it's a valuable thing, and there are people out there that are trying to do their best to pretend they have that certification when they don't. So we investigate all of these, and if they are actionable, we certainly do take action. Pardon me. A little bit more on some of these fraudulent claims that I spoke about a few slides ago there. It's come up more and more with internet websites where there's sales. I know like Alibaba is a site that has a lot of internet sales, and then some are just on a manufacturer's website where they're listing these names that sometimes are very confusing to a consumer. I've found names that were called NFRC Energy Star Double Hung, and I found ones with other manufacturers' name included in them. Recently, because a consumer called and said, I can't find this company's name on your certified product directory, I took a look at the website, and this company had actually taken someone else's certification authorization form and changed the name, had changed dates, had basically changed every piece of data except for the CPD number. And so there are a lot of these things out there. And again, NFRC is trying our best to try to enforce the fact that this certification means something, and you can't just take it and claim it when you want. So if you see these kinds of things, definitely bring them to our attention. Again, like we get these from consumers, code officials, pretty much everybody. Just something to be aware about. Labeling errors. So we know you can't be perfect all the time. I try, it's quite challenging. Some of the errors we see are that your CPD numbers go out of date. Again, that's pretty common. You should have those up to date. I think the program allows for 120 calendar days to get those remedied once you have a recertification. You can look at the NFRC 700 for details of that requirement. Again, just making sure that your printers are working properly. You know, we get sometimes I can't read this and it's clear somebody's run out of ink. If you do a door labeling matrix, a door matrix label, we need to make sure on those labels that, you know, product options are circled or highlighted so that a consumer knows what they've got and they don't just have this grid of everything possible. So as a quality and compliance manager, I do get non-compliances reported to me in a few different ways, and some of them labeling, some of them having to do with some certification issues. They should all come through me, and consumers and code officials are anecdotally the most common reporters I have of these, but again, they do come from a lot of different sources. So when we need to resolve compliance issues, they're taken care of in a few different steps. I let the participant for PCP know right away. If it involves any other parties, an IA, a laboratory, they can get looped in. If someone is not a PCP participant, like some of these fraudulent websites we've seen before, they do receive a legal cease and desist letter. And we do have the ability to levy fines. We typically don't do that if someone is making an honest effort to stay in compliance with NFRC and there's an honest mistake. You know, some of the more common errors on labels, as long as you are quick to remedy them and make them not happen again, we're usually going to be okay. But that is something that we do reserve the right to do as needed. And also that, you know, if there are fines levied, they stay on a permanent record of a manufacturer. So if we have some of these uncertified manufacturers out there, or I say products from manufacturers who are not participants in our program, and they later decide they want to participate in the program, we will still have a fine on the books that they need to pay as part of a barrier to coming on board if they've previously had some egregious offenses in claiming certifications that they did not have. So pretty excited that we are going to be releasing the new NFRC 7007 Compliance and Monitoring Program document. This is going to replace the 707. It's been workshopped at various levels of NFRC staff and leadership. I know a board work group is taking a look at it some as well, and our goal is to develop a document that better fits the mission and works within the accreditation framework as we move toward PCP accreditation. So I hope that we will have this document published and ready to go by November 1. It looks, you know, that we're on schedule to do that. So again, I'm looking forward to having this document out there for you all to look at. At the NFRC fall membership meeting, there's going to be some additional presentations from myself for compliance and from Ron Reed on the call for accreditation. We're going to talk a little bit more about the 7007 then. We're also, I'll go into some case studies of some compliance issues, and we're going to highlight how the compliance piece fits into the accreditation framework as we move forward in this new foray for NFRC, really, of having a fully accredited PCP program. So if you want to be there for that presentation, you should join us in San Diego. It's the fall membership meeting. If you're not already an NFRC member and you want to become one, please reach out. I can put you in contact with who you need to talk to. Jess is on the call here. She'd be a great person to help you out with that as well. So last but not least, thank you. I hope this wasn't too fast for everyone. If you have any questions, you can find me and Ron both monitor the compliance at nfrc.org inbox, or individually our emails are up there as well. And yeah, we're all here together. We want to try to make sure that our NFRC certification stays meaningful and it's fair and accurate and credible. So that's what we're here for. Thank you very much.
All right, Michelle, can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, so if there's any questions, go ahead and put them in the question box now. And then we will get those questions answered. There's one question, Michelle, and that's just when submitting a form online, will we receive an email back, and will we be kept in, will we know what happens afterwards?
Right, so yeah, I will respond to you. Usually with the forms, there's usually a little bit more information that's helpful to gather from you and have a conversation kind of via email at least. And then as far as letting you know what happens, some of that is, I can let you know that it was resolved or not resolved. Don't give out generally information about fines, for example. So there are some things that would remain confidential, but for the most part, we will definitely let you know that it's been investigated and what we found, and that we are seeking some sort of resolution.
Okay, and one other question. When you receive consumer complaints or concerns, do you pass those along to manufacturers?
So at this point, I don't have a way of doing that for, well, I won't say I don't have a way. I don't do that typically for every single thing, depending on if it rises to the need. So I do put manufacturers in touch with consumers when needed to resolve the issue. If a consumer, sometimes consumers bring me things that aren't actionable and that aren't actually, don't end up being real issues, or that they're able to resolve through speaking with the installer. In that case, I don't always reach out directly to the manufacturer if it's that kind of thing. But for the most part, if a manufacturer needs to be involved, I do let them know. And I never put a consumer directly in contact with my contacts without first asking. I kind of back channel it, I say. I have a consumer that would like to speak with somebody. Who should I put them in touch with? So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. But again, if you do have any questions that come up, don't hesitate to reach out to Michelle or Ron. And as Michelle said, if you have any questions about the meeting that's coming up at the end of October, you can email me, jfin@nfrc.org, or meetings@nfrc.org, and we can get you all set up. And you can attend in person or virtually. So we hope to see everybody there. And thanks again for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.